Hello, and welcome to a relatively uneventful video. We've got a playful Jiminy Christmas joining me with the darning of socks. But how can one spend 12 minutes looking at sock darning? I think the important thing about sock darning for myself is that it is how I trick my brain out of being in doing mode and into creative art mode. The reason it tricks my brain is because it is useful. It is saving socks and making my existing socks more wearable. And so, because of that, I'm able to kind of short circuit that need to always be performing, doing, achieving. And I can get my brain to slow down and get a little bit calmer and create space for creativity. The benefit of this kind of shift from that left brain to the right brain, more or less, is that it gives me space to imagine. And darning socks is not as precise as embroidery. It's doing something with my hands and it's checking a thing off the to-do list, but at the same time, it's really easy to just kind of let my mind wander while I fix a hole in the socks. So this is one of those activities that I do a lot for the express purpose of getting myself to slow down and just be. I can tend to darn socks and then go read or do some creative act that I wouldn't have allowed myself to do otherwise. So this is kind of my little gateway creative act that is also an act of mending and preservation and reuse of an existing thing that I have. I ran into some holy socks earlier this week where I had to come up with the idea of whether or not I was going to darn, like, are all socks worth darning? And I decided that no, the ones that are kind of planned obsolescence, the ones that are thin and super stretchy and not a really good durable material, are not worth saving. They can be reused as rags in the shop or the garage, or they can somehow find another life before they go completely into the landfill, but they're not worth darning because they're not going to be sturdy enough to hold up to the repairs. These socks that I'm trimming here, you'll see as we switch to a closer up view, you'll see that they're multiply darned. They've been darned a lot of times. I'm a big fan of visible mending. I really enjoy visible mending. I think it's fun to see it on other people's clothes, and I enjoy it on my own clothes. So I don't try too hard to make my darning look, blend in or invisible or inconspicuous. So I use this brightly colored all cotton thread, and I just kind of go to town and make another blob of color on these socks. These socks are smart wool socks that I have owned at least 10 years, if not a bit longer. And the reason why I initially learned how to darn socks and even looked up the YouTube video of how to do it was because I wanted to save these particular socks. I had purchased a whole bunch of smart wool socks for the purpose of backpacking and hiking. And I had to give that up when the chronic arthritis and my arthritis all overall really took a toll on my lower back. And I've hiked 256 miles on the Appalachian Trail with some really wonderful women. And those friendships and those experiences are a huge part of who I am, that I didn't want to give up even the socks from those trips. I didn't want to give up that part of who I am and what I've done. So a lot of the socks that I tend to darn are the socks from those places. So Yes, I have sentimental attachments to a number of pairs of socks from my hiking days, and all of those get darned. I have a lot of visible mending in my sock drawer, as you can imagine. I also wear them pretty much all winter. Because I work from home, I don't usually wear shoes in the house, so I have to wear something that's a little bit warm. I don't love slippers, so I tend to wear these fuzzy thick socks all the time. I don't wear darned socks in shoes for because they're really lumpy and they're kind of uncomfortable. But I do wear them when I'm just kind of scooting around the house and working from home and sitting at a desk. That's perfectly acceptable use of lumpy, multiply darned socks that have sentimental value. They're also quite thick and quite warm, which is really helpful. So, what you'll see is I learned how to do this on YouTube. I attempt to video a how to, and I forget to actually explain what the hell I'm doing about 3 steps in. So I've taken the volume out of there. You need a needle and thread, and it's important that the thread doesn't have any knots in it, um, because you don't want to have a knot under your foot. I use a plastic LED light bulb as a darning egg, although darning eggs do exist. There are tools out there that do exist for darning specifically. Um, and then basically what you're doing is using a spiral of thread down to the hole and then creating a little basket weave across the hole and then spiraling back out away from the hole. So the darning part of it is actually the basket weave, the under over creation of basically new cloth with your thread over the space that is the hole in the sock. You're not actually pinching that hole together like you would a mending that's on a seam in a piece of clothing, because socks are kind of this knitted fabric and these holes kind of take up more space. You have to create that kind of basket weave that is going on. So that's what I'm attempting to demonstrate here. Not always in frame super well, but that's what I'm up to. And then you have Jiminy Christmas, whose name is a minced oath because she is full of everything all the time. She's definitely got tortitude. She's a year old, and so you see she looks kind of like a kitten, but honestly, she's a year old, so I don't think she's going to get much bigger. She's about 5.5 pounds, and she's naturally a bobtail, according to the vet. She's possibly purebred. I don't know. She came out of the woods to my house, jumped out of a tree about 22 feet above the ground and scared the living lights out of me. Hence her name. It was about a week before Christmas last year when she arrived at about 4 months old. So Jiminy Christmas has been here for about a year. She is nonstop entertainment around here. She's always busy, always into something, always curious. The this argument that we are having over the needle and thread is pretty much standard. So, um, I've been using a lot of these tricks like darning socks to get myself into a more creative space because I'm attempting to balance how much I'm getting done versus how much I'm doing that I'm excited about versus how much I'm doing that I just need to get done. And then also how much time I'm just relaxing and being and creating. These first couple of weeks off of like full-time work, I've spent a lot of time in flow state working on creative projects, which is fantastic. But the problem with flow state is twofold. One, I don't stop for lunch, which is bad for my body. And two, I don't actually get done the stuff that's on the gotta do list that I don't want to do. I end up being like productively procrastinating on the things that I have to do. So I've been really focused on that. I don't know if you follow me on Threads or Blue Sky. I've been talking about it in both places. Basically, how I've been trying to figure out how to get my brain to do a little bit of a mixture of all of these things, including rest and contentment and peace and stillness and not doing anything, including darning socks, because darning socks is still doing. I'm talking about completely not doing, which is something that I'm still learning how to achieve. Um, and it's funny that I put that in the phrase of achievement because, yeah. So, um, basically, what I try to do is give myself micro tasks like this for when I have downtime, and I need to shift gears. I also have been attempting kind of a modified Pomodoro technique with timers. It's not been working super well, but I am getting the things I need to get done, which is good. Hooray. Um, so it's just going to be kind of a mixture of trial and error and seeing how I can work breaks into the overall flow. So at this point in the darning video, I am going back out around the little weave and kind of doing the spiral out. The reason you want to do a couple of spirals before and after is because you aren't including a knot, and the spirals are actually there to keep the thread in place and to keep it from unraveling itself. So that's the purpose of the kind of like spiral that goes around the outside of the darned area. So please comment. I don't know how to end these videos. I've been just kind of doing whatever footage I have. In this one, I'll actually show you a close up of the finished socks. Um, but I've got like silly camera footage of the goats that wander through my yard and the pet footage and stuff like that. I'd love to know what you think of it. Leave a comment and let me know what you think of this process and of these little videos. Here's the close up of the completed socks. Like I said, they're socks of Theseus. At some point, there's going to be none of the original sock left, only the darning, but we're not there yet. All right. Thank you for